Ahoy! Welcome to the Sea Captain Way podcast with Phil Bender and Greg Patton, where we help listeners navigate the uncharted waters of personal and professional growth.
The Sea Captain Way is about energizing top performers to take on risks and push beyond their comfort zone to pursue life-changing goals and achieve peak performance.
We're going to help you build your vision by showing you how to break free of boundaries that are holding you back.
So Phil, today we're delighted to welcome Eddy Ricci to the Sea Captain Way podcast. Eddy is the founding partner at Lead Advisor, a wealth management consulting and talent acquisition firm focused on building award-winning firms and careers. He's also founded and operates other consulting firms focused on professional development, recruiting, and acquisitions for businesses outside the wealth management space. Eddy's been published or quoted in Entrepreneur Magazine, Forbes, and Fox Business News, and has given keynotes at numerous organizations. So welcome, Eddy.
Welcome, Eddy Ricci.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, this is special. Eddy goes back. I knew Eddy when he was just a kid. I mean, I think he still had pimples. That's how far back we go, and it's so great to see you and spend time. And of course, you live here in Rhode Island, where I live, so we get a chance to connect once in a while. It's just so good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And Phil, am I the closest geographically to you on the podcast? I mean, we're two bridges, but 5 miles away. So maybe we should be doing this in person.
We probably could, but I hide out in a bunker so that nobody can find. No, I'm just teasing. We do live right down the street from you, and it's fun to connect when we do. And so let's dive in. I mean, tell us about your business, Lead Advisor. Who are your clients? What services do you provide?
Sure. Yeah. So Lead Advisor is our wealth management focused consulting firm and talent acquisition firm. So really, we help build teams. And so, Greg and Phil, if you do client acquisition really well over time, talent acquisition will become a priority. Right. And that's what we help businesses with. And so in terms of services, we spend probably 20 to 25% of our time and energy on a consulting basis. So usually on talent strategy. So helping a firm with talent attraction, compensation, researching the marketplace, even auditing a candidate experience. Do a little bit on the development side as well, coaching current employees. But really 70% of our time is when a client says, hey, no, our processes are good. We know what we're doing. We just need to go out and find talent. And so we do some matchmaking. We'll do sourcing, interviewing, and help to find the next best team members.
Wow. Well, you talk about valuable, especially right now, because there is a war for talent and, talent retention, especially in the advisor space. I have clients of mine in the advisor space who talk about, the key to client experience is the employee experience. And so having good quality team members that are representing your firm it's hard to do. And it's extremely important for everybody involved. So I appreciate the work.
Yeah. So Eddy, your company website says that your team also partners with wealth management firms and practices to help solve for service, scalability, and succession planning. So what are you seeing in the wealth management practices doing that's helping them?
Yeah, and I know some of your audience isn't in the wealth management space, right? But I think what I can share on some of the best candidate experiences could be applicable really to any industry.
Sure.
And so over the past 4 years, right, since the pandemic, my team and I have probably conducted close to 20,000 interviews. And we ask the same first question. I don't care if it's an executive or an entry-level professional. We ask the same first question on every interview. And it's what's prompting the potential change. And without question, right, it's always growth. Now, growth means different things, right, to different people. It could be income, skill development, title change, more influence in a firm. But that's what every candidate, right, is looking for, growth. And so I think the best firms that attract talent, to what you said, Phil, right? It's not just about the client experience and we do comprehensive planning and here are our clients. It's here's what we do for our employees. Here are some success stories of people that started in our firm here and are now there. And here's how we're looking to grow and how this position can evolve. And so I think the best firms are talking about how their employees can grow throughout their candidate experience.
Yeah, that makes it makes a lot of sense, and it is really, as advisory firms move from mom and pop shops to really comprehensive layered firms, this becomes more and more important because now you can have a career path inside a firm where historically, even back to when I was running my own practice, you had one or two people. That was good. That was good enough, right? It doesn't work that way anymore. There's too much. There are too many layers, too many things that need to be accomplished. So, Lead Advisor provides industry insights, career strategies, professional development resources critical for wealth management professionals. But what about what you do for candidates in the profession that they're looking when they want to make a change? What would you share on how they can stand out when interviewing for a new role?
Yeah, yeah. I'll share what they can do. And going back, just I think it's important for any employer to hear, though, kind of going back to the employer side, if I may, Phil and Greg. I think also the best firms that attract talent, they have the hat trick or the trinity in their interview process. And what I mean by that is communication, speed, and transparency. And communication, where they have a point person that's updating the candidates on where they stand, next steps. They feel connected to the candidate with frequent communication. Second is speed. I think today you need to get through your interview process within 30 days. And if not, it's probably because you don't know what you're looking for, or you're incredibly understaffed. There's exceptions to that rule, of course, but most selection processes, I think, should take no more than 30 days or you're going to lose top talent. And back in 2021 and 2022, where the candidates really had the upper hand in the talent market, we were saying even 2 weeks at that time. So again, high communication, speed. And then the last thing is transparency, or sharing what you're not great at, being a little vulnerable. I think that's important to today's candidate. Your firm's not perfect. The role's not perfect. So share one or two things that you're working on. And I think your candidates will open up a little bit as well. And maybe they'll share, hey, here are one or two things that I'm working on as a professional. So I think that's important. In our small firm, we have 4 employees internally. We don't do a lot of hiring, but one thing that's helped us is before we offer somebody, we send them our what you need to know document. And it's about 22 bullet points saying, we don't have this all figured out. Here's what you need to know. We're not venture backed. We're not Fortune 500 backed. If your computer's not working, don't call Eddie or don't call my partner, Mike, and there's no tech department. You need to figure that out. And so it's a document that's been part of our internal process. And I think it can really help some of the employers that are listening stand out in their selection process. So sorry to cut back to the employer side, but I just thought that could be helpful to some audience members.
Yeah. Well, and don't think for a second that, what I'm hearing is if I'm a client out there or a potential client of yours, I'm going to get you at this point to walk me through this process because you and your partner are very active and involved in the selection process. That's what I'm hearing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I could do just kind of a follow-on to that. So what are you seeing in this space, Eddie? What are wealth management firms maybe doing that might be hurting them in the hiring when they're hiring talent? Shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, Greg. So the simple answer is probably just the inverse of everything, right? I said they don't communicate with the candidates. They don't update. They take too long, and they're the best at everything. And everything's perfect. And that might seem a little simplistic, but I think it's really the inverse. Or, sometimes if it's a small team, they don't communicate to their team members before they start interviewing why we're hiring. What do you think? And that can cause some friction on the team. So making sure that your team members know why you're hiring, get their buy-in, and making sure that they're on the same page, I think can help as well. And so I think that's how we're seeing some smaller practices lose talent.
Yeah. So it's a very Wonka-esque of you. Strike that, reverse it. What everything I just said. You turn it inside out. So, Eddie, you also have a consulting business called The Growth Game and have written a book by the same name titled The Growth Game, A Millennial's Guide to Professional Development. So, how do you think about professional development?
Yeah, yeah, that was 12 years ago for
Oh,
that
okay.
book, but it is the name of one of our companies now. And so with professional development, I think of it in two ways. I think one, it's the new learning, it's the deepening of learning, it's new experiences, and it's skill building. There's that side that's very important.
Hmm.
And then I think it's the connections, right? New connections, stronger relationships, and your network that makes you think bigger. And I think true professional development, right, has both of those. And so that's how I think of professional development. And I think it's the most important asset class, right? That isn't talked enough about, right? Reinvesting in yourself. And so I do some strange things that I tell myself is professional development. You might disagree, but some things that I do that I believe help me. One is I'll take two vendor calls every month. So as a small business owner, and you guys probably experience this, right? You're always getting text messages or emails or phone calls from somebody soliciting you for business. And I ignore most of them, but I try to hop on two calls or product demonstrations or Zoom calls. And one reason is, hey, maybe I do need that service, or I should at least know about that service, which could help me, right, in my career, or help my business. But two, how are they communicating? What are the questions they're asking? How are their sales skills? And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's really bad, but I think it's a great learning experience. So the second thing that I view as professional development is, I joined an angel investment club when we left Manhattan during the pandemic and moved to Rhode Island. And I consider that professional development for a few reasons. So one is, when you're living in New York City, you're always meeting amazing people, right? You can strike up a conversation at a bar and find out that person sold a business for $500 million, right?
Right, right.
So you're just around some of the smartest minds and the most successful people. And, no place is like New York City. And so when I moved to Rhode Island, I was like, well, how do I stay connected to and continue to meet great people locally? And so I joined a angel investment club. A mentor of mine was in it. I'm probably one of the youngest members. It's mostly people that are on the back nine of their career or in retirement. They sold businesses. They're high level executives. And I learned so much from them. The questions they ask, how they do due diligence, right, on a business. I also learn, right, the format is every month there's two startup companies that are presenting, looking for funding. And so I learned so much from those entrepreneurs and what they're looking for and starting the business. And so I've learned a ton that way. And plus, I've made a bunch of investments that haven't panned out yet. So I just view it as professional development when I invest in these companies. Hey, it's professional development, and hopefully one of them pans out. So that's been very helpful to me because I'm getting both sides of what I define as professional development, right? It's the skill, it's the new learning, it's the experiences, but also meeting great people.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
In fact, let me stop you for a second on that one because, first of all, I think the vendor calls is a terrific idea, and I'm always saying I'll give anybody 30 minutes of time, but they got to be introduced to me. What you're saying is what you're saying is no. I'm going to take a risk here with somebody who's coming from the outside in and take a risk, see what might become of it. I think that's very forward thinking of you. The second part is this angel investment group, which I love. You and I've talked about this already, but what I love about it, first of all, people on the back nine in their career. I know you were referring to Greg and I, but we blew by that one. It's okay, but what wisdom you pick up from not just making a good choice or learning from other people, but also what kind of mistakes. I mean, this is like Shark Tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is. Yep.
Yeah, very cool. What's the third one you were talking about?
Yeah. So obviously, always listening to podcasts and videos. But when I started the business 5 years ago, I said, hey, you got to read at least one or two leadership or business books every month. And we've done that. And to take it a step further, what I'll do is summarize that book in about 5 pages for all the concepts that I think would be most helpful and relevant to the wealth management community.
Wow.
And then I'll write 1 page on what I was thinking or how the book helped me. And then I send that to about 100 to 150 of my closest connections or clients. And so it's always reading, right? The top leadership books and business books. And that's probably how most people think of professional development, but summarizing it and getting that out to other people more for accountability that I actually follow through and continue to read. So those are three things I've been doing that, isn't a course, isn't an additional credential, right? That,
Right.
And how I view professional development.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I love that stuff, and there's some uniqueness to it too. So, Greg, what else? What else we got?
Yeah, so you shared that you read these business leadership books, and then can you share what are some of your favorite books and what you're recommending to your contacts? Any specifics?
Yeah, so we've read some household names, right, Greg? I know we were talking a little bit about Good to Great, and I think everybody, most people have read Good to Great, but some different ones out there that maybe some people aren't familiar with, that I learned a lot from and had a lot of responses after I sent the summary from some clients and connections saying, "Hey, that was a great one. That's a great book," or "I'm going to go read the full book." So one is a CEO only does 3 things. That's the name of the book.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, right? It's it's cast the vision, it's build the team, and it's make sure there's enough money in the bank. But it's a lot deeper than that, and I highly recommend it. I think it's Trey Taylor, who's the author.
Okay.
Smart Brevity. Smart Brevity is all about communicating concisely in today's world, both verbally, right, and written. And I thought that was a great book. And the last one's a little bit older. It's about 13 years old. It's called Rework. And Rework is really a contrarian business book challenging the untested certainties in business. I think they started the death by meeting. Does the meeting need to be 30 minutes? Can it just be 7 minutes? Like they were talking about that. 13 years ago, they talked about remote work and the person doesn't need to be local to be on the team way before we even knew what the pandemic was. Yeah. So those are 3 kind of books that maybe you haven't heard of or aren't as popular that I think a lot of my clients and contacts appreciated.
I love that. And, it's interesting. You talk about, Greg asked you about your book and you said 12 years ago, right? But I tell you what, books are books. They're timeless in many cases. This is a great example of how this particular author ended up forecasting some things that end up playing out, right? Yeah. And there are certain books and certain, studies that they are timeless. But the one thing that I picked up from what you said just a second ago is how we had a podcast recently with the same mindset, which is how you just break molds and how you just go in different directions. And as long as you proceed, you may find you uncover something tremendous. And what I'm picking up theme wise in your professional development is it is all about taking a little risk here, a little risk there, and whatnot. So, this, I got one final question for you. Take me, having a small firm, I know it's profitable, very profitable from our discussions, not just for you, but for the people that work with you. But take me out a few years. What's your vision look like for this thing?
Yeah, that's. I had a feeling you were going to ask me that.
You know me better.
Yeah, vision. You always start with vision. Right? It's,
yeah.
CEO only does 3 things, and one is vision, right? And so I think it's continuing to balance both concierge services for our clients and feeling a part of the team for the clients that we work with, an extension of the team. And in a lot of capacities, we do that. In other cases, right, we have our clients say, "Hey, no, just introduce us to people or give us some advice, and then we can handle it from there." But also, I think building scale, right, and this balance of concierge, but still building scale for the business and something that is, eventually sellable there. And so I think that's what we're working on. But I think, at the core of our vision is, redefining wealth management team building. And I think at the speed of change, today, I think, that vision's always going to be changing with new technology, AI, just consolidation in the industry, advisors kind of leaving wirehouses, right, and other firms that way. So I think it's always going to be changing. But at the heart of what we do is got to be, an extension of a wealth management team to help them with all their human capital needs.
Yeah, and wealth managers, Greg, and you've been in this business for like me for 30 years. Okay, so you know this business, and you know how unique it is now to go from mom and pop to firm. That the value proposition, to use your words, has to be about firm building, about building scale. You use that word as well. These are things that even 5-6 years ago were very few firms got this. Now it's a matter of conversation consistently. And so advisors that were generally good at sales now have to become either good at being a CEO or they have to hire somebody. And that becomes a challenge for some. And there are some that get it. They're using your firm and they're winning. So how do people get in touch with you to learn more about your talent acquisition and consulting service?
Sure. People can email me. It's er@lead-advisor.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, and happy to chat there. So thank you.
Great. Greg, any final parting words?
It was great, and great meeting you, and interesting to hear you're talking about helping your clients work on scalability. I know Phil has just been doing some seminars on that very topic I think you just finished one about a month ago, and that's kind of been a major area of focus. So I'm sure you guys will have some great conversations around what he's doing, because he's doing it with one of the best.
Yeah, we continue to do that type of work. Again, a lot of clients that I work with have crossed paths with Eddy, and Eddy, I appreciate everything. What tremendous model you've built and accomplished in your young life, and I just think the best yet to come for you, especially with how you're in front of everything. So thanks for being on today, my friend. It was great to have you.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Sea Captain Way podcast. If you found the conversation valuable, please like, share, and post a review on your favorite podcast app.
To learn more about Sea Captain and its performance coaching programs, visit us at seacaptaincoaching.com. The link is in the show notes. You can also follow us at Sea Captain Coaching on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening.
Wishing you fair winds and a following sea on your journey.